With design, I feel like I'm continuing a tradition while also trying something new, and there's something really nice with that, that in one sense it's a recognizable style, but in another sense I'm doing something different with it. Being a designer of the arts and crafts movement, there are sort of parameters within that, but I like also pushing outside that, that you're combining design, art and function all together. One of the things I love with antiques is like looking at how they were made and how much time was involved in these things, and one of the aspects of making them so durable. Furniture and functional objects that we use now, they're designed to go up and to work, but there's no impact to their longevity or to the fact that they all look identical to the same. For me, it's so important to have something in your home that's the most used and yet the most beautiful. Yeah, my name is Johan Mingus. I run Johan Mingus Design. I kind of create and design all sorts of beautiful furniture, architectural joinery, anything from huge bookcases with sliding ladders to coffee tables and armchairs. I kind of focus in on the arts and crafts movement because I find that that calls to me the most, and I just love all the different designs that we got from the early 20th century and how there's still more to learn from that and how that can also still be applied now in the contemporary homes. Anyway. That's that one. So this is the noisy bit at the start. I mean, for me as well, like I'm from a long line of like builders, and like my great-great-granddad was a builder in Glasgow, and then my dad's a builder now, and I guess the first person to teach me anything practical was my dad. You know, he was the first person to put a saw in my hand and that kind of thing. I loved learning that, but what I like doing is once I learned it, how I can like develop that further, how I can then play with that. Now I understand some of these crafts and how to build things, how I can use those ideas and explore them. Yeah, don't have a mask on. Yeah, much dust. Like what I think for me started all, I mean, I've always enjoyed doing what I was told not to do. That is for sure, like, and it's definitely from a very young age that I definitely got a lot of pleasure from that. I think from a small child I was definitely like love building things, you know, playing with Lego, playing with little toys. But I think also, to be honest, like one of the things from a very early age was I saw what I didn't like. My dad built this beautiful like mortar archway that went above this big double oven we had in this like basement kitchen, and he mortared it all, fit in with the room perfectly, the colour tied in. But in my mind, when I was like a 6-year-old, I was like, that looks too crisp, that looks too sharp and new. So with like the back of like a hammer, I went and pulled this chair up and like whacked and chips and put chips all the way along it, so it gave it, in my mind, an aged feel. But then my dad went ballistic because I just ruined this thing that he spent weeks building and put it in a form, and there's been so much work on it. I saw there was a visual part that I was like, I want to understand how to do that so I can make it better, or I can make it the way I imagined it. So just looking at the wood to see how like bumpy it is. Okay. So I'm just looking down that line, just a little bit of undulation, and then I'm going to turn it this way. Then, right, so I know which way it's bowing and which way it's not to flatten it. For my first Saturday job, when I was working washing cars for a guy and doing his garden, he had like a small workshop, and he was the first one to teach me how to do wood turning and knife making. He had a lot of practical background, but he was the one that introduced me to like proper woodworking machinery and how to do things a bit faster. And he was the one also that showed me that you could still sell things, you know, that people would still be interested in buying your ideas. I was able to sell some of my ski and doos and things as a teenager, but I knew for me selling one ski and do, I'd have to sell hundreds or thousands a year to make any money. So of course that didn't really feel like that was something viable. I didn't really think of it as a career really until much later. day. So then this ready to go into the thicknesser. It was only after I'd been studying at university, doing a degree in European civilization, studying some background in Gaelic and in history. There was such a calling with this historical part, but then at the same time I was still building a woodwork bench in my student bedroom, you know. It was so big I couldn't get it out the door. Do I want to be a history teacher or go into something in academia, or do I want to do something with this? And then that was where I went back and did a HND in furniture making with design at Glasgow, and then went and started exploring that more. With Furniture Maker, there isn't like an official apprenticeship. I had to create my own. Within like a month of starting college, I realised that it was only part-time and 2.5 days a week.
Right, ready to rock.
So then I phoned up every furniture maker in Glasgow, just seeing if anyone would give me any form of job just to let me come into the workshop. The one of them that did, he phoned me up and said, well, as long as you're mad enough, because everyone in this workshop is a little bit mental, and that you're happy to take £5 an hour. And I nearly failed college because of the attendance, because I was in the workshop more. He had such a deep interest in history and in design, and I like resonated with a lot of that. I learnt lots from him as far as running a business. What to do, but lots from him of what not to do as well. And I was so fortunate that then I was able to take over his workshop from when he sort of retired. And I didn't need to have that massive investment of machinery to help me get started. It is that kind of thing of being able to still play creatively and work within parameters of your customers and what's required for you to even get paid and to keep a workshop going. A lot of the crafts I've learned, I would say I was always taught by somebody for a short time at the start. But what I enjoyed most was learning by myself, because I had that freedom of like, there wasn't any judgment or any oversight. I think I can be told what to do, and when I go away by myself, then I can learn better, because I feel like sometimes if someone's watching you or whatever, you're like, oh, you were told you weren't allowed to do that, so you'll not do it there. Oh, you can't build something like that way. Or you shouldn't do it like that. Okay, but let me just try and just see, because there's always a good reason people say this, but often then I'm like, I learn something different from it going wrong, or just because it did work. And this weird idea I had was able to be incorporated or something like that. And I think there's like lots of times you kind of get sidetracked with what you can and can't do. And what I love is learning all of the parts and then seeing how I can then play with that and then be creative in that and learn more from it. Actually a new blade.
Maybe this way might work.
It's not even... When creating your own designs, because you aren't paid for that, like commissions, a customer gives you a deposit and will pay you for the piece. So in one sense, it was never really yours to begin with, you're designing it for them. Whereas when you're making your own paste, you are entirely doing it on your own time, and you've got to hope that you sell it in the future to get that time back. But then on the other side, you have complete design control, and you can really try and push the boundaries. Right now, I can design any form of furniture that I like. I can have any sort of ideas and mull on them, and I can build them without any sort of impediment otherwise, you know, and that's where there's so much more design flexibility, because I love interior design, how like good design informs and enriches your lifestyle. I love designing and creating things from scratch. How I can kind of utilize my unique form of design and build something that's functional and practical. Customers who come and find me, they were like, I really love your style. How can I have something that you make but in this space? I want your design flair in this, you know, and that's just so rewarding when someone says that, and that's something that's definitely helped me keep going for all the years. About half of the wood I buy in is Scottish, locally sourced wood, and then another half is American oak or sheet material that is like oak veneered boards. I'm trying to bring my sources closer and closer to me, but again, with Scotland, we don't have as well infrastructured Scottish sawmilling production. If I can build something that's designed to last for lifetime to come, and importing it from America, although there is like a environmental impact to that, that's sort of offset with the longevity of what I'm trying to produce. And when it comes to like the materials that I use, like the oils and the varnishes, like I do spend a lot of time like making oils and stains for my furniture. The more I've started looking into that and making my own, how straightforward I realize it is. So this is a mixture of vinegar and steel wool. Inside here is some steel wool somewhere. Because the acidity of the vinegar is gradually starting to dissolve the metal, and that in turn reacts with the tannins in the oak, causes a very black stain on the wood itself. And I'm just trying to get it as deep into the grain as I can. You can see this just starting to change. Oh, flip. Oh, crap. Oh, changing before our eyes. So we see this bit here, it's not stained as dark, this bit, because that's the sapwood, and the sapwood does not have as much tannins in it as the heartwood of the oak, so it won't stain to the same degree. Hopefully I made the right decision there, because this is entirely me like chancing it whether it's going to look better black. The one time I've ever done it was on that bit of wood, so optimism and ignorance is best. Lots of the wood as well, I actually literally take out skips. Like the amount of hard, solid oak flooring that I've taken out of skips off the street and then sanded down, re-glued them together, and I've quite simply just made them into shelves. Like coffee table I'm working on just now, the base shelf from it is a piece of an old wardrobe that I found in the street. It's solid oak. Once it's sanded and glued in, it's almost invisible to the design. You can't tell that it's a bit of trash, but the fact that it's incorporated into this design seamlessly is something that I get a lot of pleasure from, because I feel that all materials that we use should have some form of circular economy. With wood, it is so flexible. You can just sand it down and reuse it on something else. As much as I focus a lot on wood, I work also a lot with copper and pewter work. The designs that I love the most are when you're incorporating multiple materials. So yeah, what I'm doing just now is turning my hand drawing and transferring it through onto the metal. So I've taped the paper drawing straight onto the sheet pewter, and then now I'm using the biro pen. Biro is quite good because it's got a metal tip with a ball on the end, so that means it rolls off the paper to not push a hole through it, but it means that there's still enough pressure to indent the other side of the metal. So you're trying to follow your line, because any bits that you go off will then be permanently transferred onto the metal. Because I can't find arts and crafts handles that I think are nice enough for my own work, then I found to make my own. Then created my own copper plates to my light switches with these designs that I really like, because one of the things that caught me is that I'm using this horrible plastic light switches every single day, but yet it gives me no satisfaction from it. I almost just don't even look at it. It's like invisible to me. The whole point is white as it blends into the wall. Whereas now I've created a design for my light switches and makes it its own kind of piece of art, and every time I click the light switch it gives me so much satisfaction from turning my hallway light on. Better in that way. So that is something that I do think about a lot, is how then each craft and technique that I use respects what's gone before it while enriching what's going ahead. I believe that well-made furniture is for everybody. I don't think it should just be for the people who have the biggest paychecks. However, there's obviously an addition to hand-making furniture that does cost, and it costs weeks to make something. It costs a lot of overheads, taxes, all the rest of it, and it does become harder for everyone to buy it. But that can start anywhere. It can start by you buying a small bowl off of a maker, or you buying a small thing. It doesn't have to be that you know that your minimum cost is £10,000. It brings you back to that handmade, the maker and the object and who made it. The more you use something that's well designed and it's handmade, you get more from it. It's not just a tool that you discard. It's whether you're in contemporary design or whether that's traditional arts and crafts. That's still something that all makers are pushing against, that sort of mass production, and against this sort of diluted design that we have that fits one design for everybody. And with the arts and crafts movement too, I think Glasgow and Scotland has such a rich history of that as well. There was so many incredible designers and makers that came around from that time, and I think that's where we have such a lovely tradition of that, of traditional makers and of designers and of artists and craftsmen. I feel like I'm part of that lineage. you.